Hi good people, welcome to part 21 of the Frogger mini-series, and in this video we'll be creating the logic to pull the title widget on and off the screen for the player. Let's not waste any time and just jump right into it. Alright, last we left off we created the title screen, but we have no way to pull it off, so that's what we're gonna basically try to fix now. Let's open up our content drawer, go to our blueprints folder, and let's start in the BP Game Manager. We'll double click to open that up. Alright, and then we were basically driving the logic off the event begin play. I think what we can do is we can actually probably just create a reference to the title screen, and then we'll pull into the HUD widget and create a reference to there. And then we're actually good with the rest of this logic, because we're actually adding the widget from the player blueprint. So this is actually going to be, just fine. But we do need a way to know if the game has already started, because we are instantiating the player blueprint, and the player blueprint is basically adding the widget at event begin play. So that's going to be an issue for us. So we're going to add a variable called game started ? And then we'll compile and save. And then what we'll do is we'll reference that in the other player blueprint to see if the game has already passed the title screen, and if it has, we won't do title screen things. So once we've done that, we need a way to actually basically pull off the title screen. And in the title screen, we're saying press fire to play. So we basically got to create a fire action to be able to do that. So if you remember early on in the series, we created an input folder, and then we created a couple input actions as well as an input mapping context. So we're going to create a new action. So we'll right click, and then under input, we'll select input action, and we'll just call this IA_fire. The defaults are actually fine. We don't really need to change any of this. So this is good. But the last thing we'll need to do is we'll need to open the input mapping context, and then we're going to have to add in that new action that we just created. So we just hit the plus sign here under mappings, and then we'll hit the drop down and we'll select the input action fire. And then if we expand that out, we can basically assign a key button or a key binding to it. Now for this one, I'll do the F key, but if you're working on a controller, you just hit the plus sign, and then we can do maybe gamepad, and then let's do, let's see, thumbstick, D-pads, left, right thumbstick. We got the face buttons. I guess we can just maybe use, I'm going to use one of the triggers. Where are those at? Right thumbstick in, right trigger. There we go. So we got left and right trigger. So we'll just do the right trigger. So if you're working on controller, you can set those up, and you can add as many bindings as you want. So we'll go ahead and save that there. And now that we have the action created, we can go into the player blueprint. So we'll open up our content drawer, go to blueprints, and then we're going to open up the BP_player. There's a few things we need to adjust. For the game manager, let's delete these references here, and let's actually break the add to viewport. So basically after we cast to the game manager and we store it as a reference, we're going to want to get that Boolean variable that we referenced, which was the get game started. And then we can pull off this into a branch node, and then we can basically ask if the game is started or not. If the game is started, then we want to use our game manager reference, so we can hold control, drag off here, and then we can just simply pull the HUD reference on. So we'll get a reference to HUD, and then we'll just add this in the target, and that'll be on the true pin. So basically, if the game has already started, then let's put the heads up display on. Now, alternatively, if the game hasn't started, that means we're at the title screen. We want to get our game manager reference, and we want to get our title screen reference. And then we want to add that to the viewport instead. And then we'll put this on the false pin. Now, one other thing we'll want to do when we're at the title screen is we don't really want to allow the player to move the pawn. So we can simply grab our character movement and we can pull off that and do a set movement mode. And we'll just set it to none. And that's just a built-in function of the character movement script that comes native with Unreal Engine. So it makes that a little bit easy for the setup. So we can compile and save that. And that's the event begin play. So there's not too much additional added there, but we do need to add in the code for that key binding that we just made. So we'll come down near the bottom, and I believe it was I_fire. So we'll add in the enhanced input action there. When that is triggered, we're going to want to come into a branch. And then what we have to check is we're going to get our game manager reference. And then we're going to check if the game is already started. Because we really only want to do this at the title screen. So we don't want to do this if the game is started, so we want the inverse. So we can pull into a not boolean to get the inverse. Pass this in here like so. And then on the false, we basically do nothing. But on the true, we'll want to basically pull off our game manager reference again. And we'll want to set the game started variable to true. So that way this doesn't execute again. It's basically kind of like a one and done thing. And then now that we've basically set that variable, we'll want to also use our game manager reference, and we can get our title screen reference. And if you remember, before on the title screen, one of the things we did is we created this animation. Actually, it looks like it might not have saved, but that's okay. Actually, no, this is the wrong one. This is the heads-up display. Open this title screen, this one right here. There we go. So under animation, we created this fade out animation. So when it plays, it basically just kind of fades out. And then we created a custom event to play that fade out. So in the title screen reference, we can just pull off that and do play fade out. I think we are fading out over 3 seconds, I think it was. So we'll want to come into a delay and wait, 3 seconds. We might change that. We'll kind of see what it looks like here. And then we'll want to get our game manager and title screen reference, so we can duplicate that. And we can pull off and call a function called remove from parent. What this does is it pulls the widget off the screen. Now the widget's going to be transparent, so it's not going to affect or do anything, but it's good practice not to leave it on, especially since we need to switch widgets. We need to switch to the heads-up display. So you don't want to layer on widgets on top of each other. So pull it off, and then we're going to add in the other one. Now, because of the way our game manager is set up, on the event begin play, it creates the widgets, but it also starts the function timer, which is that little update timer. So that's going to be running in the background the entire time that the player's on the title screen. So what we'll want to do is when the player's actually ready to play the game, we'll want to pull into a reset timer. So we can duplicate the game manager reference, call reset timer, and then from here we can then add in our heads up display. So that was our game manager reference again. We'll get our heads up reference, and then we will add that to viewport. And now remember, our player cannot move So that's our character movement. So we can just hold control, drag that out, and then we can just set the movement mode. And then we'll set it to the default, which is walking, which will allow us to actually use the character movement to go. And we're gonna modify this just a little bit, but let's actually see what this looks like so far. So if I hit play, I can now press the F key or the right trigger, and you see it kind of fades out, and then I can actually move after some time, and that looks all right. We can also see in the bottom right corner, our little timer is actually going down. So it looks like it's working okay. But what might also be fun is if we have a different camera angle. So let's maybe come over here and let's add in a camera component or a camera actor. And then I'm going to rotate it by 90 degrees. Yep. And then let's pitch it down a bit. Maybe right about there. And then let's bump it up. And then kind of even it out. So maybe right about there. So I think this will look cool. So now we need to be able to switch to that camera when the game starts. There's a few different ways we could do this. We could do it like we did with the death camera, where we harvest it and we make it its own blueprint, and then we do that in the player blueprint. I'll show you another way you can do it, just to give you some different ideas for your projects. We can actually come into the level blueprint, and then on the event begin play, we can right click and create a reference to that camera actor. In order to do that, you have to just have that camera actor selected in your level. And then you'll be able to right click and get, you know, events, functions, and references to it. So then we can right click and do a get player controller, and off the player controller, we can set view target with blend. And then for the new view target, we can put this in as the target, and on the begin play execution pin, we'll hook over there, and then we'll set the timer to 0 so it snaps to the view. And it's going to do this when the title screen widget is covering, so it's going to be black so the player's not going to see it. But just in case, it's going to be instant anyways. So now when we actually play this, and if I press fire, you're going to see it basically takes over that camera, and now we're getting kind of this view. Now you'll notice the frog is on the right hand side, so I can actually start moving. And I don't know, maybe you can make this a fun little mini game or something. But we need a way to be able to switch to the player so they have the normal view. So to be able to do that, we'll head back to the player blueprint, and on the input action fire, we can make a slight adjustment. Somewhere in here, we basically just need to view blend back to the player's perspective. So I think maybe right before the reset timer, we can basically just get the player controller, and off the player controller, we can call the set view target with blend. And we'll hook up the execution pins. Now we need a new view target. You can't just simply drag the camera out. You'll notice that doesn't work. But what you can do is you can right click and get a reference to self, and then you can just pop the self target in, and that'll work just fine. And this time I'm actually going to blend across like 1 second, because I think that'll look nice. And then we can save, and let's try this again. So we got our title screen, we press F, kind of blends, and then it moves over, and then the player's ready to actually go. Now, I'm not too happy with the animation, so I'm going to tweak that just a little bit. So this will just be a little bit of optional stuff that we can do. So we'll go to that animation, and I think what might be fun is we're going to drag this out to maybe 3 seconds. And for the full thing, I think we'll do maybe 1 second. Maybe we'll do 2. No, we'll do 1 second, that's fine. And then we're gonna add in another component, and we'll do all named widgets. I'm gonna get a reference to the image 0, The image 0 is the black image background. So what I want to do is I want to come to the beginning and I want to add in a render opacity of 1. And then after 1 second, I want to set that render opacity to 0, but I want the text to kind of remain. And then I want the text to fade after that. That way that's kind of the animation. So let's compile and save. Let's see if maybe that looks a little bit nicer. So I press F, you see a little bit of the title fades over, and then maybe you get that. Some other things we can do too is we can kind of mess with the lighting a little bit. So we can select the directional lighting and then press Control-Alt-L as in light, and we can move the light actor maybe a little bit lower. And then maybe we get a little bit of more of a, I guess, an ambient style, sort of like that. All right, everyone, I think we'll cut it here for now, but in the next one, we'll create the pause and game over widgets for this project. As always, thanks for watching, consider subscribing, and we'll see you on the next one.